on AïVANHOV. April 13, 2020. Well, dear friends, I am extremely happy to see you again after these few weeks of rest you have just taken. I come back to you, I convey to you all my blessings and, if you will, as last time, there will be no questions. But I am going to try to make a picture for you, if I may say so, of what is being lived, both inside and outside. Of course, without going into all the questions that you may have regarding all these events that are occurring, within you and outside of you, at the individual, societal, collective, planetary level, that concern the whole earth, all humanity and, of course, also those who are interested in the sky, not only on earth, but everywhere. Because there's only one answer to all your questions, which is complete unveiling, that is to say, the complete illumination of all that was unknown to you, hidden, or not yet lived or crossed, and that this concerns you individually, in what you have to live in this kind of intimacy where you are, but also at the level of humanity as a whole, and I would say the societal level. So of course, all this is accompanied, if you're interested in the theater scene, but also in what is happening within you, by elemental manifestations as we said, which are more and more intense and more recurrent. I would also like to remind you of a great phrase, a great affirmation that we have been delivering to you, both of us, moreover, for many years. To know that the more the chaos would grow, and the more the light would sometimes come to collide with the cocoon of personal satisfaction in which you were, and put you, for those who accept it in any case, more and more easily, at least in peace, and at most in this ineffable joy of agape, that is to say your encounter. There are no better circumstances than those you are going through, once again, not only according to your family, emotional, professional, financial situation, but all the sectors of your individual life are necessarily the most suitable, not for your well-being, not for the perpetuation of the dream, but for your awakening, in all possible ways. So of course, what happens on the world show stage gives you elements, as I said last time, that can comfort any point of view. If it's the bad guy's point of view, the plan is going perfectly. If it's the point of view of the absolute, the plan unfolds independently of you. If it is the point of view of the one who believes he is a fighter of light, he will say that this is it, the victory is there. And so on, that is to say that each one, facing, I would say, the same scene of theater, sees exactly, I would say call at your door. It is thus, it is in this most accurate way if I may say, that the same scene, as Abba used to say, is at the same time the simulacrum and the sacred that meet, I would say in the same incongruity, in the same existence and in the same permanence, that is to say, make room in every possible way for the peace that you're in truth, when you're no longer in this form of manifestation, of exteriorization within this dissociated world, but also, I remind you, for all of us within any dimension whatsoever. So of course, the antichrists are coming, of course, the Christic matrix is there, you know that already for 2 years now, it is totally installed and totally available for everyone from the moment you make peace, with yourselves first, with your life, with this world, whatever I would say the spectacle, that this spectacle gives you to discover the horrors of this world, but also the joys of this world by being with yourselves, and lets you to discover, perhaps, I would say potentials, interests. But in any case, what is happening now puts you very exactly beyond the theater stage, in relation and in resonance I hope, with what you're in truth, and everyone, since there is only one, and since there is no person. And it is an excellent, I would say, opportunity, but I would also say beyond the opportunity, the ultimate chance to remember who you're in truth so that this creation, without even mentioning anywhere else than this earth, really realizes its illusion, this game of consciousness and makes you live this naked and absolute truth, which does not depend on your character, nor on the world theater scene, nor on your mood, nor on your thoughts, nor on your beliefs, but only I would say on the present instant. Abba insisted at great length, not only on the power of the present instant or the reality of the present instant, but that it was at this level that you could meet, I would say, as instantaneously as possible and as directly as possible. And it is exactly what you are living as an individual that led you to realize, and especially to become conscious first of all, and then to live in totality in order to find yourself beyond all forms, all illusions and all the scenarios that are given to you to see on the screen of this world. then of course your positioning in relation to this will find certain echoes. Some of you are taking advantage of this to stay quiet, to take care of your garden, to take care of your house, to take care of your children, to take care of your sales or your love, or to take care of your enemies if you have to solve something if you're in the same place. But beyond all that is at stake, remember that from the instant you accept to be crossed by the circumstances, even the most terrible ones, of what is revealed to you, in relation to yourselves, in relation to your environment, in relation to humanity, the whole human community, that you have the greatest chance of discovering your ultimate truth, which does not depend on the stage in which, however, in the chaos of this society, inexorably sends you back to that joy. And we have always told you that the greater the chaos, the easier it will be for you to find your joy and your discovery. That is exactly how it is. So of course you are wondering, I had already spoken about it. I had been asked that question, I think in Peru, about this kind of quarantine. I don't know what you call it exactly. So it does not really matter whether it really obeys an agenda that you could call a cult or satanic, but it serves a light, because it allows you to dispel the illusion that you have to gain something in this world, since you're the path, the truth and the life. And everything is done in society to save you from questioning yourself about that. And today, in these particular circumstances, wherever you're on the surface of this world, you are indeed in your own personal way of living this truth. So, of course, in this discovery, it is, of course, an individual matter, and, as you know, it was explained many, many years ago, by a succession of shocks which is not in truth a shock of humanity at the moment, but which is helping, I would say, to re-establish it in a formal way, in the very near future, since it may be from one minute to the next. It had always been said that all the circumstances, the prophetic events, announced, feared, that we have been talking about for years, the more time passed, the more they would take place simultaneously with the good news. That is to say that what appears in the eyes of the person, in the eyes of society, incarnate, material, and whatever his religious beliefs, clearly shows him that, within this manifestation, all this is nothing but illusory suffering. But this most terrible illusory suffering that you can see today, perhaps for those who are interested in what is happening, or what is feared, can only lead, in the end, to your final awakening, as soon as you do not judge. It has been explained in countless ways, and especially by the great mothers, and especially by Frame. The more you embrace, it is not a question of embracing or saying yes to what is being unveiled to you or to the world, but simply seeing it, not interacting with it and really letting it, I would say, somewhere metabolize within you. You just have to do it in relation to a circumstance, whether it's where you are right now as a person, with a brother, with a husband, with a wife, with a child, whether it's with the circumstances of the puppet show that's on the theater stage. But as soon as you realize that you have the real ability to get through, even the horrible, even the inconceivable, right behind, as we've always told you, you find yourself. Which means that, in a way, whatever you're living today in the circumstances of this world, in whatever country you are, you have every day, and every minute that passes, more and more of the capacity to discover the truth. Not the truth about your person, not the truth about your history, not even the truth that is spreading everywhere about the actions of the chief puppets of this society, and of this humanity, who believed it. But when you accept, I would say this unacceptable, at a given moment for the person, you discover that you're not that person, but that there's also in you this fundamental and increasingly current and verifiable capacity to transcend illusion. That is to say that you're living a dream, because some of you are living a dream. To be locked up is happiness. There's only yourself, and for others, on the other hand, and we understand this with these two, it can be very unbearable to feel like a hunted animal. Perhaps if you look at what is happening and is being revealed at this very moment from everywhere, at all levels of the organization of society. Remember that whatever happens to you and whatever seems unfair or perhaps detestable, and I say at your level as well as at the level of society, it is precisely here that you will wake up, and it is precisely here that what we had, with you, called the zero time of the present instant, is going to happen collectively, and in synchrony with everything that has been announced for many, many years, hundreds of years, and millennia I would say. You will no longer be able to doubt who you're beyond form, as long as you are no longer fooled by the theater stage. This does not mean, as I said last time, that some of you are interested in society, others in politics, others in health. Well, I would say that it passes the time, provided that you're not dragged along by emotions, by the mind, but that all of this allows you, on the contrary, despite some perhaps dissonant appearances, to find yourselves completely behind the illusion of the representation of this world and the illusion of consciousness. There's no better circumstance, and more than ever, before reflecting or going through your individual or collective circumstances, to put forward this principle of acceptance. Acceptance does not mean to accept that it is the bad boys who will lock you up even more, who will put you in inoculations, who will lock you up in rules related to transhumanist society as you say, but much more than through the acceptance of that twisted plan of the dream, you will discover that precisely this is only a nightmare. And remember, at night when you sleep, because often we made the comparison, and especially Biddy when he explained the 4 states of consciousness, he told you what is called the dream was the truth, whereas here when you have your eyes open and you lead your life, it is a total dream. It exists only because you believe in it, it exists only because we all adhere to it, in one way or another. There's no responsibility, whatever you have to see in yourself, in the other, or on the collective screen of the world, and there's just the assumption that it's all just passing. And besides, you know that when you sleep, when there's a nightmare, sometimes you wake up. Well, that's just the way it is. The more the nightmare is going to seem incredible to you at the level of the sky as well as at the level of the earth I am talking about, at the same individual level, at the same relational level, the more you are going to accept this, the more you are going to free yourself, really, without effort, from the illusion of this nightmare. And at night, that is exactly what you do. And, of course, for some of you, it is much easier to wake up from a nightmare than from a dream. That's why we insisted on placing you more and more in the present instant. Of course, some of you are projecting yourselves in every possible way into an after, what you call an after quarantine. You don't say quarantine, you say containment. Or if you prefer, from another point of view, you're under house arrest at home. Yes, your home is not only your home, symbolically, it is also your heart. It is an invitation despite appearances, to go even deeper into yourself in order to accept, to cross over, and to live the power of this present instant that reveals the truth to you, and makes you live it instantly. So of course, if you're interested in the world, do not be carried away. Consider it as a treasure hunt for those who are interested in it, and for those who prefer to garden, well, garden. The ephemeral is reduced, I would say with sorrow, since all real pleasures have been replaced by virtual ones. You go to visit museums virtually on your screens. It's also for some people the opportunity to be with family, and to see the family, in the end, is either detestable or very pleasant, but it doesn't matter. It comes to hurt you, to upset you, to make you happy or unhappy, but it's all just your individual play. That is what we call you today, to be present within yourself, to be lucid beyond all the games of your person, like all the games of the puppets on the theater stage. Everyone plays his role perfectly. But it is also the way for some, alas, to make you live a nightmare before waking up. But all this is only an illusion, you know it, but nevertheless, it is all that must be realized on this earth. That is why you see more and more ships in your skies, which are no longer even hidden in the shapes of the clouds, but which appear clearly, and not only a ship, but whole fleets, which appear above certain cities, because, as we have been telling you for several years when we were still around the sun, we are approaching, not only in terms of distance, but also in terms of vibrations and manifestations, this collective moment for great rejoicing. So to not look for a date because you're in the date, whatever it is, whether it is in a minute, whether it is in a few weeks, whether it is in a few months, everything is happening right now. Read some of the writings if you wish, if it can keep you busy, but the most important thing is not the visible, objective signs of the establishment of the light, but it is, above all, what is lived in you through the establishment of the truth. So whatever your manifestations, whether it is manifestations related to a virus, whether it is manifestations related to human radiation, whether it is twisted, whether it is cosmic radiation, whether it is a societal interactions that you're living where you are, all of this has only one purpose, even if it is not yet apparent to some, it is awakening. The awakening to agape, the awakening to love that does not depend on any form, any history, any retribution, any future and any past. This is what we have expressed to each other in relation to the present instant, which today is the totality of time zero. At the time, of course, many manifestations for those who are discovering it now can occur. I will not go through the vibratory, energetic manifestations concerning the chakras, the gates, the stars and the different circuits of the body of eternity, and that, if you pay attention to what is happening on the screen of this world, in relation to the virus, in relation to society, you will find that the symptoms, if I may say so, related to the transformation, are exactly the same as those that take place for those who are sick, as well as for those who are not sick. So of course, whether you call it coronavirus, whether you call it the crowned one, as Nostradamus said, for example, Peter Dunov. This is exactly what Peter Dunov said in his last life, his last prophecy, that at some point in time there will come the fire of heaven, the famous white paradise that no one can ignore, and that will be a moment of total synchronicity between the dimensions, the universes and the different aspects of the fragmented consciousness through a pseudo-individuality. It will happen very quickly. It could be once again in a minute, maybe in a few weeks. It all depends on the progress, I would say, on this unveiling, on this resurrection that will become more and more important every day, at the same time as the chaos will grow more and more, whether it is at the level of society, at the level of volcanoes, at the level of the elements. All this was described on a vibrational level in the Apocalypse of St. John. I refer you, for those who are interested in historical data, to what Sri Aurobindo had said many years ago now, during 2009 and 2010, about the vibrational aspect of the Apocalypse of St. John, but which, as in the prophecies of Nostradamus, only really become clear once they are actualized. There are thus innumerable internal, external, prophetic, vibratory, energetic, and vibratory markers, at the level of forms and at the level of the universes, which all converge towards this same 0 point, which is at the beginning of our lived experience to all of us. Remember that you have nothing to do, you just have to take care of where life has placed you. Some of you find yourselves with joy, and others with a lot of stress still, in this particular state, where I would say the outside is reduced to a bare sorrow. And now I would like to say, and we have told you this, but I repeat firmly, there is, in the present energetic, vibrational, and collective consciousness state of all creation, no conceivable possibility of going back in time of any kind. There really is a form in the alchemical sense, even, and real, a precipitation of all that must be precipitated, in order to really create what is happening in each one. It is a process of decantation, where everything that is heavier settles to the bottom, in order to leave transparency. It is evidently much more than the synthesis of the body of eternity, with its different manifestations, that many of you know. It has been explained for many, many years. The best way today to position yourself, once again, is neither meditation, nor prayer, nor even to explain the why or the how. You can do it if you feel it, but the most important thing is the intimate conviction that you're the truth. Accept it and you live it, that there is no other, that there is only you, and that everything you see happening inside you, with the children, the family, the friends, or other brothers and sisters, everything you see happening outside, wherever you look, in fact, is only about the same comedy, the same drama, which is that of what has been called consciousness, which is a disease, and which is a total sham. You are interior and we are interior to all play within all forms as well as all dimensions. It is not a belief, it is something that is to be realized intimately and that is more and more accessible to everyone. But please do not seek to understand beyond what you understand. Whether it is for your character, whether it is through the energies, whether it is through the vibrations, whether it is about the lighting of the world stage in the bad boys. Right now they are at the wedding, so to speak. It is also their heavenly wedding, so to speak, and after 11 years of being with the actual heavenly wedding, which many of you have lived through. So you just need a kitty, a form of acceptance, a form of childhood, which will give you to use what you know how to use. For example, if you know science, you can be interested in everything that takes place at the real energetic level, in relation to the waves, in relation to viruses, but do not get carried away. That is to say, you will discover that if you're in agreement with yourselves, there can be no more fears, no anxieties, no uncertainties. There's indeed a form of inner certainty which is established through peace, and, as soon as you recognize it, through joy, and then through agape, which is totally independent of what you thought you might have to understand, flee or accept. The closer you get to this present instant, whether you're watching the news, or tending your garden, or cooking, or going around in circles in your living room, it doesn't matter, because everything is the same. That is to say, you are no longer fooled by what is happening on the stage of form, on the stage of history, on the stage of manifestation. That is to say that, even if you suffer from the current manifestations of this world, be certain that right behind you is the truth. That is to say that in every possible way, the intelligence of the light, the crystalline matrix, the entire intergalactic confederation of the free worlds in all the dimensions, as you may have known, are now being brought together as close to you as possible, in order to make the junction within you, because we are already within you. You will see that there is no antinomy, but a form of resonance between our presence within you, as in what is manifested outside of you, regardless of appearances and regardless of the events of certain events that are currently taking place on Earth. All this cannot divert you from the truth. All this cannot delay you, because only you can fully accept what is happening. Not as a form of surrender or a form of defeat, quite the contrary, as a victory of the light. Because the moment you find yourself, the moment you accept, you will radiate that light. And that is how you are no longer just, as we said many years ago, anchors or sources of light. You are the light of the world. You are the light of the worlds. But you are also everything that has been created, before your eyes, in you, as well as before you. There's the true blessing, and there's the true work of transcendence, resurrection and freedom. You have always been there. You had simply forgotten that. And you're waking up from this dream or nightmare in any way you can. And it is also a way of breaking, I would say, the last attachments, not attachments to suffering, of course, but even I would say attachments to what was most pleasant, to beautiful stories. That doesn't stop you from living them, perhaps for some people even much more than before. But it will allow you to be lucid. And the lucidity is part of the transparency of the childhood path of the one who accepts what is, and who accepts that he can change nothing in the end. But you can soften the dream so that it does not become a nightmare, whether it is through a smile, whether it is through your research, or what you contemplate in the world or on the inner screen, that you share, that you exchange, that you give to live to the other through sympathy, through resonance. And that is how what we have called interdimensional spatial agape resonance is established, which allows you to discover that you're not this form, or any other form, but that you're between forms, and that you are, as we have said, the very substratum of the universe, the very substratum of the dream, and the very substratum of creation, and of your own awakening. As Abba said, everything was written before creation. That's what you have to accept that the film takes place through you, but ultimately without you. You are not only the witness or the observer, you are also the one who wrote the script and distributed all the roles without exception. Through this form of consciousness, beyond the energetic and vibratory aspect, you have the instantaneous ability to transcend all this, and really, to resurrect to yourself. And this is the Easter period. Of course, what remains to be gone through during the month of April and May, I remind you, that it is punctuated by other feasts that were called religious, but also some very particular astronomical aspects that were used by spiritual movements. For example, you have Wessex soon. All these festivals, in fact, will show you the truth behind appearances, behind manifestation, behind beliefs, behind all the projections you can imagine. I repeat that there are no better circumstances, despite what you might judge, indeed, as detestable in the circumstances of the human collective. There are no better circumstances than those that are taking place now to allow you to discover who you are beyond all history. Of course, there are still other things that will become clearer, every day, even more directly if I may say so, concerning you, concerning what is being played on the theater stage, what is being played even in your own home. But, here again, remember that beyond all emotion, beyond all projection and understanding, the most important thing is acceptance. Because acceptance, there too, becomes an understanding that shuns the mind, that shuns reason, that shuns memories and that shuns projections, and that settles you with more and more stability and certainty in the present instant and in its peace. This is something that you should all be able to recognize, especially for those who do not feel that they are living much of the energetic or vibrational processes. Remember that superconsciousness requires vibration, since consciousness is vibration, but truth will never be a vibration. Truth is beyond all forms, all worlds, and all manifestations. And I repeat one last time, each day you will have more and more opportunities to live this, through your inner show, but also through the outer show. So of course, a number of events on the theater scene are taking place. You could say that they are seen as big as a house with their chess moves, if I can put it that way, where they think they're still running the world and taking advantage of the circumstances related to this virus, or how they were planning to take advantage of the visibility of never to make their plan. But, as you can see, the bad boys have a little bit of trouble to worry about, no matter how many scarecrows they still put up in front of you. Don't be fooled by that anymore. You have the inner strength even more accessible to the truth that you are, from the moment, once again I repeat this keyword, you accept. It does not mean not seeing, on the contrary. And you also see through other channels, other voices, and even among yourselves, that you share, and whether it is on social networks, by talking among yourselves, by exchanging, you exchange things that you could not exchange before, because there's a form of collective maturity to the unknown. Indeed, anything is possible. The unknown rushes towards you at the level of the theater stage. For you it is known as you are as soon as you live it. But it is indeed a great scene of cosmic theater that is being lived by you, and which was written by all the prophets, and in the time of Christ, long before, and also much more recently. So it is useless, and as we told you a few years ago already, to look for the chronology, since you live it every day, inside you as well as outside the theater scene. Just be a spectator who tastes a state of inner joy by observing what is happening, and also by observing a kind of real and concrete distance from the circumstances, I would say, prior to this world. Because everyone knows very well that nothing will ever be the same again. So there really is a work of mourning going on right now. But it is a mourning that, we hope, will be increasingly joyful, for you and for each of you, each day that will pass. So evidently, I will come back before the end of April, without being able to specify the exact date. But I will ask you for this coming before the end of April, this time, to ask me the questions you think are good, knowing that I will not answer dreams, nor what is happening on the theater stage, because, that, you have all the means to see it with a minimum of curiosity for the moment, as I said last time, on your screens. But I'm talking here about the inner problems of positioning, and the questions that will be related to that, also according to what happens on the theater stage. I will announce this to you a few days before I come, depending, as I told you, on the progress of this magnificent show that is underway. As for me, I convey to you all my blessings. I will end with these words. You also know that you can call upon us. We've been telling you this for countless years. In the same way now, in certain circumstances, if you seem to have some difficulty going through, either internally or externally, such horrible things to accept, we're with you and we are in you, as we are closest to your heavens. Do not hesitate, that is what we are here for. Do not forget also that the interdimensional space-agape resonance is more active than ever, in all possible ways, to allow you to settle in a stable, definitive manner, in the present instant of time zero, and that there's joy, and there's peace. And that it prevails over all the circumstances of your lives or your bodies, whatever you're living, at whatever level. So allow me to convey to you all the blessings of the Intergalactic Confederation of Free Worlds and all dimensional planes, who join me in honoring your present position, whatever it may be, in the discovery of your ineffable truth, prior to all consciousness and all worlds. I send you all my blessings and I love you. And I say to you before the end of April, but I will tell Head Chief to announce my coming a few days before, so that you will have the opportunity to ask questions beforehand, which will be transcribed, of course. But forget all that is dreams and forget all that is questioning about the energies, the vibrations, because we have been talking about it for many, many years, and everything has been written down in the channels of Technique more than 10 years ago, hasn't it? So don't go back on that. But I insist above all in the questioning that you will perhaps have according to the circumstances, if they occur, of this access to zero time, to this peace and joy, which depend, as we have always told you, only on the acceptance of your character, of your soul if it is there, and of your spirit. And through this, you will see all the subtlety and the weight of what we had given, and what Abba, head chief, Big and even Maud gave, the last time she came to Peru, concerning this acceptance, this unspeakable love that you are, despite the circumstances of this world. I would even say, thanks to the circumstances of this world, even if they seem the most horrible to you. You are behind this, you wrote to wake up, you have simply forgotten it. Now it's time to remember. I love you and I tell you, well, see you maybe in 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. I'll see you soon. Through Jean-Luc Ayoun. Less Transformations. English Revised Translation, LMF.